So we are going to take a little virtual field trip to the Seychelles. I'm so excited. I love working with the Seychelles Island Foundation. We do so many live events for classrooms. We've done night safaris. We've made paper crabs. We've learned all about different projects to eradicate invasive species. We've learned about some of the amazing biodiversity. So it really is a pleasure to be able to bring that story into the Global Biodiversity Festival. So we're taking a little bit of a chance here. We're going to try to connect to Aldabra Atoll, which is one of Seychelles' 2 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The other one is the Vallée de Mai, and that's protecting one-of-a-kind palm forest in the Seychelles. So Aldabra is the longest continually protected green turtle nesting area in the Western Indian Ocean. The population has been increasing significantly during the last 50 years. But how does this happen? How does an organization like the Seychelles Island Foundation monitor turtles, keep track of the population? So we're going to explore a little bit of that today, the green turtle recovery on Aldabra. So again, it's an atoll. The connection isn't always great. If we're lucky, we'll get to talk to Luc Hébert for a little bit. He joined the Seychelles Island Foundation as the science coordinator of Vallée de Mai before transferring to Aldabra in November 2019. We're also going to be joined by Jeremy Ragain. He started working at the Seychelles Island Foundation in 2013 as a field research assistant on Aldabra. He experienced the outstanding beauty, was inspired by the fauna there to get a degree at the University of Cape Town in environmental geographical studies and international relations. And he's now the communications and outreach coordinator with the Seychelles Island Foundation. So he'll join us as well. If Lucas can't join us, we do have a great video, but let's see how we're doing here. So I see Jeremy here, nice and clear. Hey, Jeremy, how are you?
Hey, Joe. Lovely to see you. Good. Yeah, good.
Yeah, absolutely. So we saw Lucas for a moment when he first came into the call. So I'm wondering, Lucas, I don't know if you can hear me right now. I'll try and pop you in for a moment. Yeah, we're just getting the audio coming in. But Lucas, if you can hear us, try again, log out and come back in, and maybe we can get you on board for a little minute. But Jeremy, while we wait, I mean, the Seychelles, 2 incredible UNESCO World Heritage Sites. I mean, tell us a little bit about, let's start with Vallée de Mai. Tell us a little bit about Vallée de Mai, and then maybe Lucas can tell us a little bit about Aldabra.
Sure thing. I mean, the Vallée de Mai is already one of the smallest UNESCO World Heritage Sites, so it's just under 20 hectares. In terms of Seychelles, we're part of a biodiversity hotspot, and on the Vallée de Mai, which is on the 2nd most populated island of Seychelles, Praslin, it's kind of one of these high endemism areas. So we've not only got the world's largest seed nut, the coco de mer, which can get to 20 kgs. We've had this great virtual classroom to go into that, but we've also got a lot of different reptiles. So giant bronze geckos, chameleons, frogs, really minuscule frogs. So it's an amazing place, and it's Seychelles' most visited natural site. So it's not only providing, the biodiversity and learning space, but it's also a big part of our tourism.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see Lucas trying to join again. So let's see if we see his camera. If we do, I'm popping him right in because we want to say hi and hopefully he can share a little bit with us. So let's see if we get that camera connection. There he is. Lucas, how are you?
Can't hear you. It's the perils of living remotely and working remotely, unfortunately.
Hey, you know what?
We all enjoy the video.
We can hear you. We can see you. Can you hear us? All right, darn. I'm going to see if he can. I'm just going to send him a quick WhatsApp because we can hear him. Let me see. Maybe he can just quickly tell us a little bit about Aldabra. Be great to hear it right from the source, from the science guy, and then we can share the video. And then worst comes to worst, Jeremy, we can talk a little bit about the project and do some questions. So hopefully Lucas gets that message that I just sent him and just unmutes the mic for us, and then he can tell us in his own words, even though he can't hear us. Okay. All right. Well, let's try one more time. Oh, I think we lost him. Okay. Well, let's play that video because I think that video is a really great video. So let's play the video. Let's get a taste for the project. We'll meet Lucas that way. So let's get that video sharing. Just bear with me for one moment. There we go.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Luca Bear. I'm the science coordinator on the beautiful Aldabra Atoll. And I'll be talking to you today a bit about the atoll itself, what we have here, and then running through a bit of our turtle monitoring programs. Aldabra is one of the largest raised coral atolls in the world and is part of the Seychelles Outer Islands. It is about 1,000 kilometers southwest of Mahe and around 400 kilometers north of Madagascar. The Seychelles Islands Foundation has managed and protected the atoll since 1979, and that's who I work for, and we continue to conserve and study all the species that call Aldabra home. Despite its size, Aldabra has been relatively left alone by humans for most of its history, which means many unique and special species have actually survived and thrived here. This includes perhaps the most emblematic species found on Aldabra, the Aldabran giant tortoise, which is the last remaining giant tortoise in the Indian Ocean. All the rest have gone extinct, unfortunately. We have over 100,000 on the atoll, and it's the largest population of giant tortoises anywhere in the world. The atoll also supports a wide range of shorebirds and land birds. This also includes the Aldabra white-throated rail, which is the last living flightless bird in the Indian Ocean. Unfortunately, all the others went extinct, like the dodo. There's also a vast array of seabird species. Including one of the largest frigate bird colonies on the planet. The wondrous species found on land are only outdone in beauty and abundance by those in the marine environment. The atoll contains a diverse variety of marine habitats, with a large extent of mangroves found all around the inside of the atoll. And then there are extensive seagrass beds supporting what we're here to talk about, a large turtle population. And then the atoll is fringed by rich coral reefs that support an abundance of fish. These in turn then support an array of top marine predators. And because the atoll has been protected for so long, it's a haven for long-lived fish species that are often in decline elsewhere on the planet. The lagoon is also one of the defining features of the atoll itself, being one of the largest in the world. One of the most endangered species that utilizes the lagoon is the dugong. It's the last remaining population in the Seychelles and probably one of the most secure areas for them to exist in the Western Indian Ocean. Last but not least, Aldabra is also home to one of the largest green turtle nesting populations in the Western Indian Ocean. It is actually the longest protected nesting area in the region, and it now has a thriving breeding population of around 3,000 to 6,000 females nesting annually. However, until the establishment of the research station in 1971, when the atoll became truly protected, turtles were being harvested in large numbers. It was actually reported in the early 1900s that 12,000 were taken in 1 year. I'm a bit skeptical about that, but generally, several hundred were harvested annually. It got to the point by the 1960s where it was extremely rare to see even one green turtle emerging onto Settlement Beach, as you can see from this old footage with no turtles. whilst graceful in the water, turtles are extremely vulnerable on land. They struggle to move and move very, very slowly, much slower than giant tortoises. This, coupled with the fact of their size, meant they were harvested extensively for their meat. The nesting process for a green turtle, all in all, takes several hours, which again contribute to their vulnerability while on land. The first stage involves digging down into the sand, what we call a body pit, until she's about level with her shell with the sand. They then dig out the egg chamber with their back flippers, slowly digging down about 50 centimeters, into which they'll lay about 100-120 eggs. They then camouflage the nest, flinging sand to cover it, slowly moving forward so the true nesting site is well hidden. Green turtles have been recorded to lay up to 9 clutches a season, coming ashore every 2 weeks to do so. So the big question you're probably all asking yourself is, how do we keep track of the turtle population on Aldabra? And the answer is simple, really. We count the tracks on the beach. So each time the turtles come up at night, we can follow that track where they come up, and by counting them, we can track the population change over time. You can see in this video here that I'm just drawing a line across the track, and that's so the person the next day knows that that track has already been counted. You might ask why we don't actually count the nests. Not every turtle that comes onto the beach actually makes a nest and lays eggs. Some come just to have a look around, scouting where they could lay, whilst others attempt to nest, but they don't quite find the right spot and head back to water. So you can see that to properly count the number of turtles coming on shore each night, using tracks is the best and frankly the simplest method. Every morning on Aldabra, a ranger walks the 2 kilometers of Settlement Beach, which you can see here in the video, counting all the turtle tracks left behind the night before as they go. The ranger also notes whether the turtle nested or attempted to nest, or whether it was just coming to look around for a potential nest site. We also take the GPS coordinates of where the up track of the turtle was, as we're interested in accessibility. Now here in this video, you can actually see a nest from above, and I'm just drawing the outline of the camouflaged area where the turtle flung the sand to hide the actual egg chamber. And so here, where I draw the circle, that's where she probably actually laid, but she ended up some 3 or 4 meters in front of me. Look where those shadows are. As I rather foolishly demonstrate, she camouflages and ends up in this body pit there, and then that is her nest complete. So we have to assess each turtle emergence, each track, to see if the turtle actually nested. So we do record whether it's nested, whether it just came on shore, but we're recording all emergences to understand how many are coming each night. Then of course you've seen me just draw a line through the track so the person the next day is sure that's already been counted. Now let's watch a section of the beach speeded up to understand the process. So you can see here that I'm sort of moving backwards and forwards a lot in one section, and that's when we get a lot of turtles emerging in one area. It's difficult to tell which track leads to which nest, etc. So just take some time to figure that out. You're probably wondering how all this data then feeds into tracking the population, and this is the graph that really illustrates it. So what we have is years across the bottom, and you can see the program was started in, the tracks monitoring program was started in 1981, and then we're actually plotting against the Settlement Beach, the average daily emergence. So that's taking all track counts for a whole year, dividing it by 365, the number of days in a year, and then we get a number to see what the average number of turtles coming up onto the beach each year. And what this graph really shows is the incredible increase since monitoring began in 1981. Now you can see a few gaps in the data in the 80s and early 90s, and that's to do because there wasn't a whole year's data set, so we couldn't have confidence in that. But the key issue here is that if you look in 1981, the average daily emergence, the average number of turtles coming ashore on Settlement Beach each day was around 3 You look at 2018, that was 26 turtles every day on average. Now that is an average, and it hides the fact that we do have a peak nesting period between February and April. And in fact, we've just gone through our peak nesting period this year. It peaked in March, and we had the highest number of tracks ever recorded for a month ever since 1981, since records began. And we had, on average, over 50 turtles a night for the whole month coming on shore to nest. So it's been an incredible recovery, and in fact it's nearly a 500% increase in the number of turtles coming onto Settlement Beach every night since 1981. So an incredible turnaround. Now we monitor the tracks on Settlement Beach every day, but we also have about 22 smaller beaches just south of the research station, running along the western coast of the atoll. So at least 4 times a month, 2 rangers go out in a little boat and cruise down this coast and count all the tracks from the boat. And they only record the very fresh tracks, the ones that were left the night before. So as you can see here, there was 4 tracks on the beach, on that last beach, so that's actually where a turtle's gone up and come down. So that would be 2 turtles. It takes a little while to get used to it, but it's a wonderful trip when the sea's calm. We have recorded quite a large increase in the number of tracks on these western beaches, but nothing like Settlement Beach, where we walk every day. And that's inherently due to the fact that the main human settlement was right on that main turtle beach. So that got hammered the hardest, rather than these smaller beaches further south. We also run a tagging program on Aldabra. So 4 or 5 times a month we go out at night and actually tag the nesting females by placing a small metal tag in the pit of their front flippers. Now we always wait until they've finished the nesting process and are camouflaging so not to disturb them. Each of these tags has a unique number, which then allows us to track individuals over time, and we take measurements of their shell or carapace so we can see how turtles develop as they age. Aldabra's turtle population is recovering extremely well from the pressure of harvesting in the 20th century. However, it now faces a new threat, and one that SIF on its own can do nothing about: marine debris. Here you can see images from the south coast, where there is literally tons and tons of plastic washing ashore every year. We estimate about 60 tons. Most of this by weight is industrial fishing gear, so here we see a female turtle entangled in fishing line, binding around her flippers, and she's actually still alive. Even if we could remove the estimated 500 tons of plastic from the atoll, it is only treating a symptom of the problem and not the actual cause. We need to change our lifestyles and not depend so heavily on disposable plastics that are so easily thrown away. And the way we catch the majority of our fish has to change. We have to shift away from industrial scale fishing and return to small scale local fisheries to have a truly sustainable ocean environment. However, I think the key takeaway message from this presentation is the resiliency of the green turtle population on Aldabra. Despite all the overharvesting and now these new threats, the population is continuing to rising, and that gives me great hope for the future. Thanks ever so much for listening. I hope you understand a little bit more about Aldabra and all the special creatures that we have here, and how SIF monitors the green turtle population and how they've increased in the last few decades. Hopefully we can cut across to me live now on the atoll. Just depends how our internet is doing. Thanks a lot for listening.
Okay, what a great video. What a great project. Just amazing. So we're not ones to give up easily here at the Global Biodiversity Festival. We can't seem to get Lucas back on video, and it's not surprising. Coming from Aldabra and the Seychelles, the connectivity is not great, but we did discuss possibly trying to connect via WhatsApp. So let's see if we can pull off a connection with WhatsApp and get to hear a little bit from Lucas.
Hello.
Lucas, how are you?
I'm very good, Joe. How are you?
Good. We just watched that incredible video, the amazing, not only Aldabra, but the amazing conservation work you're doing with the sea turtle. So it was just visually stunning and just great work.
Yeah. I think the atoll really comes alive from above, so the drone footage really shows what this place is about.
Yeah, no question.
It's hard to see it when you're actually on the atoll. Yeah.
Well, let's hear it from you, someone who gets to spend a lot of time there. Tell us a little bit about Aldabra.
It's almost out of this world because it's so isolated, and you sort of lose all reference points to whatever life you had before you come here. And then it's just an alien landscape, a raised coral atoll. All the rock is embedded with seashells and corals. So it's like you feel this weird connection with the marine on the land. And then with the turtles coming ashore, you see that whole, there's no difference here, I think,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what richness, sea turtles in the water, tortoises on the land, all kinds of bird species.
Yeah, exactly.
Just incredible.
No, it is. And even the plant community, there's some 200 flowering plants, of which 40% are endemic. So, for a remote coral atoll, it's actually, the plant life is incredibly rich as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's so rich. And I think the key message of our Aldabra is the resiliency of nature. And Aldabra has been relatively left alone, but there was significant exploitation of its resources, turtles and tortoises mainly, and the fish. But, given enough rest from overexploitation, things can just bounce back so quick.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think that's a theme that's come up repeatedly over the first day and a half of the festival so far, is that protect nature, give nature space, and it's incredibly resilient.
Yeah, and it's almost, conservation is if the ultimate goals are reached, the job's gone, because it's a hands-off thing, and that's, I think, the real aim of conservation itself. You don't want to be doing interventions manually, and you shouldn't have to,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what a beautiful place. And the project, I mean, numbers are going up. That's not happening everywhere else in the world. So, if you could give some tips or some thoughts on why it's so successful, can you share some of those with us?
Yeah, because tips, I don't know. I think it's the isolation of the place and the sort of relatively undisturbed nature of the Indian Ocean. But that's another part of this story. Like, we're only protecting, or the nesting area has only been protected for 50 years, but these turtles are swimming out, thousands of kilometers in different directions across the Indian Ocean. And yet, and they're going out to places that are not protected. So that in itself, I think, is probably a unique situation to Aldabra, but that's another part of the story, that they are going out to the big bad ocean, so to speak, and the numbers have still gone up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does look like...
One thing...
Sorry, go ahead, Lucas.
Sorry, Joe. But one thing, if you remember that table I showed of the actual numbers increasing, they really started to increase about the year 2000. And I suspect that's connected to the reproductive age of green turtles is about 25 to 35 years old. They become sexually mature. So it's almost as if it's that first generation of the protected turtle hatchlings. So from 1971, 30 years later, the track numbers really started to increase. So, that could be the fact that it's this first protected generation returning to nest. And I think that illustrates it really quite nicely as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes total sense. And, I mean, credit still has to be given, that there's lots of obstacles faced, whether it's entanglement in fishing gear, or we saw all that plastic garbage on the beach. So giving them that clear space, giving them a chance is a huge part of the success, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I think, you're alluding to the fact now that marine debris is a massive problem. So, during that recovery, at least in the initial 20, 30 years, there was probably very little or relatively little plastic in the ocean. But now that threat, it's like the threat shifted. It used to be on the nesting grounds and they were safe in the water. And now that's completely reversed. And maybe it's only going to get worse. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an inspirational project, and I can see why you love being there. And you know that isolation probably pays off sometimes, like when the boss is calling and you can say, "What? I can't hear you. No connection."
Never, Joe. We would never do such things.
No, of course not. Of course not. This is just between you and I. Nobody else is listening.
Yeah. There's technical problems that can't be avoided sometimes.
Absolutely. And I think we still have Jeremy in the call. And Jeremy, I know, started off there. I don't know why he ever left. It just looks beautiful.
It's a great question, Joe. I still ask myself that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was just going to add to what Luke was saying, because I think, as he's saying, it's a reversal, where once it was protected, now there's danger. And I think there's some amazing international, level things happening, like the BBNJ, the biodiversity beyond national jurisdictions and areas beyond national jurisdictions. So a lot of the treaties are trying to move that place where we see if these turtles are going far away, how do we recognize that these places are important? So I think Aldabra is this beacon of what's possible. And maybe we should be considering that beyond our national areas, So just to add that. No,
absolutely. Yeah. And again, just what riches the Seychelles have, both with Aldabra and the Valley de Mai. Just two amazing locations, and great conservation work happening at the community level at both spots. So very exciting. Always great to connect. And Lucas, I'm glad the WhatsApp worked. It's good to hear your voice.
Yeah, it worked really well, actually. There's always a way around these problems, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. As we're wrapping up, Lucas, are there any other projects on the go? Can you give us an example of another project on the go on Aldabra?
Well, yeah, just related to the turtles, we're partnering up to do DNA analysis to try and understand where all these nesting females come from, and a lot of the juveniles in the lagoon, because we suspect that the lagoon supports or could be a regional nursery for juvenile turtles that come from all different places. So we're trying to find out genetically, how they are connected regionally and who's using the lagoon and where these turtles are from. So there's a lot more work to find out. We've barely scratched the surface.
Excellent. Well, like you said, a successful conservationist will eventually be out of a job, but it sounds like you've got some exciting projects to keep you busy for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Awesome. And then Jeremy, to wrap up, how often do you get back out to the atoll?
Not nearly enough. We basically have very few amount of flights and supply boats. In fact, this season now, the Southeast, from about April, May, that's our last plane or last boat that goes out. And then for the next 6 months, we basically don't see anybody come off on Aldabra unless it's an emergency. So I myself have been quite lucky to spend 7 months and then 2 other occasions with specific projects involved. But it's a very rare privilege. And the beauty of something like what you're doing here is bringing people there. And I'm sure, if Communications for Change and some other projects we've got going, we'll be taking people there. So it's hard, but it's possible to share.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's always worth trying to make those connections. We love our classroom events from the Valley de Mai, and looking forward to the future when hopefully we can get a little better connection and bring the second UNESCO World Heritage Site online and just bring it to the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully soon. All
right. Well, Jeremy, Lucas, thank you so much for representing the Seychelles Island Foundation. And a huge shout out. I know lots of the team is tuning in. And just what a great team. Just a pleasure to work with. And I can't wait for more live events.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Thanks a lot, Joe.
All right. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the day.